It's Saturday, April 14th. Welcome to Pastor Bob Daily. A friend sent me this email today, and I thought it would be a really good one to do on this podcast. What do you do when it feels like God has totally forsaken you? I lost my job. The house I was renting a room in got foreclosed on. I lost about 97% of my worldly possessions. My girlfriend left me for another man. Help. I've been praying my guts out, and it seems like God just doesn't care anymore. Just like that Slipknot lyric. What if God doesn't care? I don't know what to do. I'm just getting more and more depressed. Man, I feel for you. And, there are two things that I'd like to share with you today. One is how we answer this question usually in ways that make it worse. And secondly, what are the real answers to the problem? Now, first of all, a ready answer would be, well, let's look at Job for a minute. And, that wouldn't be a bad idea because Job went through worse than this. But to be compared to Job when you're going through this is really difficult. And then there are those Christians that would say, well, God has a plan. You just have to trust him. And that's the worst thing you could say sometimes, even though it's true. Because it's almost like rubbing salt in the wound. Then there are the people that say, well, you should look at the good things. Okay? I lost my job, my house, my possessions, my girlfriend. Can't think of a lot of things left. You can't, it's hard to concentrate on the good things when you can't think of any. And then there are the ones that say, well, just have faith. Just pray. And he is praying. He says, I'm praying my guts out. I know what that's like. We don't usually handle this very well. And in counseling somebody like this, we usually say all the wrong things that even make it worse and make the person even feel more lonely. The Bible says to mourn with those who mourn, to weep with those who weep. Sometimes all a person needs is somebody just to cry with them. Just to say, man, I have no idea how you feel, but I feel so bad for you. Can I just sit with you for a while? Can I just be with you for a while? Let's go out to dinner. Whatever it might be. And I think that's the best thing you can do until the sting of the whole thing gets a little better, and then you can start working on things. So what do you do? Well, sometimes the only way that I really understand to answer a question is to speak from personal experience, and I'd like to be really transparent for a minute with you. In 1994, I moved from California to Tennessee. I left a thriving church. I left people that did not understand why I was moving. I felt like God was telling me to move, to relocate, to stop doing the church and really concentrate on international ministry, to do a lot more traveling, to work with more festivals, to take it to a little different place. And so I moved for that purpose. And I really felt like I heard God, and very few people agreed with me. So I left the church. I left people angry with me, upset with me. And I left a ministry that wasn't perfect. I didn't understand so many things during those days. I feel like I've kind of grown up a little since then. But the one thing that I remember so much is the pain of it. I left my house and was homeless when I got here. And not homeless on the streets, but I stayed in hotels and whatever and tried to find my way. I left a lot of friends that were very angry with me that wouldn't talk to me anymore. I left my fellowship, and some people came with me, and I kept teaching Bible studies even though I was miserable and depressed. And it was a very low time. I was very depressed, and I think I went through a little bit of a breakdown when I got here. I was so exhausted from everything. And it took me a while. It took me a long time. But it's interesting. Since that time, God God's promises came true and actually bigger than I thought. Did a lot of traveling after a while. But the one thing that God needed to do in me was to break me. I needed to quit building my empire and begin to build his kingdom. And I was really guilty of that. Bigger and better, all these things going, so many different kinds of ministries, and all very much having to do with my ego, honestly. These days, I have very little agenda left, and I still have some, still working on things, but very little left. I've been trying to be as transparent as I can so there isn't as much ego left as there was. And I can tell you I'm so much happier, so much fulfilled, and God is so much more real in my life. Now, that's not the thing we necessarily want to hear. We don't want to know that God has to break us first to take us to another place. But I kind of think that's what he does with a lot of us. The only way to get from point A to point B sometimes is through some painful time. And I always feel like when somebody loses their job, their house, their possessions, their companion, all of those things, man, God is ready to move you in another area. And it may be difficult to hear that now, but it's very likely true. And you know, the people that I trust the most on this earth are Christians who have lost everything, Christians that have gone through a lot of pain and come through the other side. They're the ones that know. They're the ones that have experienced God's love and his faithfulness. They're the ones who really get to know him. And sometimes the only way we get there is by removing everything else that's taking us in another direction. So my advice is keep praying your guts out. Keep coming before the Lord. This isn't going to lift tomorrow, but you'll become less and less depressed. You know, you'll find another job. You will find another place to live. You probably didn't need most of those possessions anyway, honestly. And you know, there's probably somebody better for you out there. All things you don't want to hear right now, and I totally get that. But I'm also excited to see where God's leading you. And I know, after 55 years of being a Christian, that God will never leave you, he will never forsake you, and he always has a plan. God bless you. Have a great day.